All right, YouTube. Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast this morning, talking about a little bit of Auburn football as we approach week 0 of the college football season. Auburn, of course, takes on Oregon in a couple of weeks. Well, less than a couple of weeks at this point. Let's go ahead and subscribe to the channel, guys and gals. Comment and go ahead and like this video or unlike it, if whatever you feel compelled to do. At this point. Also, getting fired up for the first game, Florida and Miami, to get our feet wet back as far as Power 5 football goes. And as always, guys, on this channel, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle. Auburn's got a lot of things going on at the moment, okay? Now, one thing that's probably getting a little bit, I'm not going to say it's getting more press than it should, but it's not the only thing that's like of utmost urgency and importance. Auburn is in a situation right now where, at least from a public perception standpoint, they don't know who the quarterback is. I think, and I damn near know that Auburn knows who the quarterback is going to be. It's just that the public doesn't know yet. And now the public is thinking kind of sort of, well, Auburn needs to get it together. How do you not know your quarterback coming out of camp? They do know their quarterback. They know who the quarterback is. Just because, for example, you look at, say, Pepsi or Coke, they come out with a new flavor. They knew they were coming out with that flavor 6 months ago. You're just now knowing about it. And now you're in the store like, oh, hell yeah, man, I like this, So the coaches, I'll say this, if they don't know by now, I just think Auburn is in trouble, period. So you better hope they know. All right. I think they know. And the announcement will come at this point sooner rather than later, because Auburn's got about a week and a half to think about it. Kickoff is in like 10 days or so. So Auburn better figure it out if they don't know. But I think they know. But here's some things that I thought about. I think the quarterback battle is important. But equally important is some of the ghosts of the last season that I think was the difference between Auburn going 8-5 and Auburn potentially making a push for the SEC championship berth. Okay. One is losing the close ones. That game against LSU, man, that was absolutely a terrible way to lose a football game. Conference game, definitely a momentum shift for Auburn by losing that particular game. You notice that they just didn't play with the same level of intensity afterwards. The season is like it just took the wind out of the players, the fan base, led to down the stretch. We all know how we hate those 11 o'clock games. Auburn actually had 3 straight weeks where they played 11 o'clock games. Kind of hard to get up for an 11 o'clock game. I'm thinking like this. Let's just say Auburn plays Tennessee at 4:30 or 6 o'clock at night. I think that game goes totally different. Not to make the 11 o'clock game excuse, but it's just a different level of preparation. They got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. They have to do all the preparation. They have to compartmentalize all of those activities in that length of time. And it's just as equally detrimental to the opposing team. But Auburn traditionally, not necessarily that they don't win, but nobody wants to play an 11 o'clock game, especially 3 weekends in a row. Okay. That's what winning does for you, is you wind up getting a better TV slot. Auburn just can't do that this year. 11 o'clock games, three weekends in a row, just can't happen. Played some of the most, especially when you're talking about playing SEC games. Auburn played Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and Tennessee, all SEC games at 11 o'clock a.m. Central Time in all of them. That's just something that, you can't always control the TV time, but winning sure does help. All right, so another stat that I kind of thought about, most of us could kind of see it, but red zone scoring. Not only red zone scoring, but also red zone attempts. Auburn has to have more attempts. They had 53 attempts in 2018, 59 attempts in 2017. That doesn't seem to be a lot, but those 6 more times gives you the opportunity to score 42 more points. And that's the difference in some of those games. If you think about it, LSU lost that game 22-21. Okay. Georgia, for example, lost that game 27-10. That's only a 17-point loss. So just imagine if they would have been able to get in the red zone to get some more opportunities to possibly win a game like that. Okay. You got to get down there in order to be able to score, for one thing. And number two, once you do get down there, i.e. the Washington game, I think they got in the red zone a couple of times against Mississippi State. Now, the most embarrassing one to me was there was an interception by either KJ Britt or Christian Tutt. Can't remember who it was in the Arkansas game. Auburn literally started this particular drive like at the 15-yard line and wound up kicking a field goal at like the 4-yard line. That's something that just, if you want to win on a high level in Power 5 football, those types of little things just can't happen. You got to score touchdowns. We think about the Washington game in the first half. 5 times in the red zone. You know, missing a field goal, actually. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But not capitalizing touchdown-wise in the red zone. You score in the red zone, you get up 21-0. The Kickoff Classic is a totally different game. That's why I'm bringing these things to the team. Now y'all starting to see that, you know, these are the things that Auburn needs to fix. Not a quarterback battle that's going to fix itself. Now, if they make mistakes, throw interceptions, that's a whole nother ball game. But these little things that take more than having a good quarterback. Having a good quarterback helps, but these are the things that have to be fixed. How do you fix these red zone woes? Well, first of all, you do have 2 quarterbacks, I believe, that have the opportunity to help Auburn explore some more play calling options in the red zone. Jarrett Stidham was just way too predictable. The passing game was just too slow developing in the red zone. Seth Williams was kind of the only hope as far as receiver in the red zone. Darius Slayton made some good plays in the red zone as well. But between an improved offensive line play, Joey Gatewood or Bo Nix at quarterback, you have a lot of different variable options at the running back position. I think this stat is something that can be fixed. As a matter of fact, it's something that just all but has to be fixed in order for Auburn to make the type of run that they believe that they can run. Not necessarily counting the Oregon game, but when SEC play starts, that's when you really got to have it. Okay. And in order to make a run, red zone scoring is going to be key, because Gus Malzahn even mentioned there are going to be a lot of close games, down this stretch between Texas A&M and LSU. And little things like what I'm talking about, guys, is what's going to be the difference makers. Remember all the close games from 2013? Remember all the close games from 2010? These little things are what play a part in who wins those games and goes to the SEC championship, or like last year, who loses those games and wind up in the Music City Bowl. Okay? So we look at red zone attempts. Now, if we rewind it back to 2017, even though this is not necessarily a staggering difference, but it is. It's the small, thin line difference between a 10-4 season and an 8-5 season. In 2017, Auburn was down in the red zone 59 times. They scored 52 times. Now, if we remember the red zone scoring from 2018, Auburn was in the red zone 53 times and only scored 32 touchdowns. That's a 6-point swing. That's a 6-touchdown swing. That's 42 points, counting the extra point left on the table. You divvy those points out and think about some of the close games that Auburn lost, or some of the points that could have been used in, say, the Georgia game, then you notice the unique difference. and how those stats can be transferred successfully if they're executed successfully. Also, we look at a situation where Auburn's got to get better. Got to get better at kicking field goals. That's been one of the things that Auburn was very, very good at in the past, especially with Daniel Carson. Now, here's the deal with this, and I noticed this in extensive film studies that I've watched here in the last few weeks, is that the field goal kicking hurt the Tigers way more than they can imagine. Think about the LSU game. There was a portion, I want to say it was about 7 minutes left, where Auburn had an opportunity to go up 24-13 instead of, 24-13 instead of it being 19-13 or 19-14 or whatever the score was at that point. Yes, it was 19-13. They could have gone up 24-13, and guess what? That 11-point difference would have made it to where LSU would have had to score a touchdown to win the football game, instead of basically being ushered into field goal range by the ridiculous pass interference penalties. That was a key miss. That makes it a 2-score game, right? Either way, makes it a 2-score game. 2 touchdowns. You got to win 2. You got to score 2 touchdowns to win the game, or score a touchdown and a 2-point conversion, and then a field goal to tie. One of those type deals. Worst case scenario, you go to overtime. That's how important the field goal was in that game for Auburn. Another situation where the field goal could have really helped Auburn was in the Mississippi State game. There was an opportunity for Auburn to pull within like 7 or 8 or something like that, right before the Boobie Whitlow turnover right at the goal line. A field goal would have also helped supplement points. So if we look at the stats field goal wise for the Auburn Tigers, 23 of 31 in 2017, and then 15 of 26. That's a 3 field goal differential. All right. You leave 8 on the table in 2017 and leave 11 on the table in 2018. That's a lot. And usually the scenarios where the field goal is definitely needed are the ones in 2018 that Auburn missed. So I hope you all are following me. These are the things that keep you from winning championships. These are the things that keeps you from having the opportunity to win championships. I know this might be not necessarily the most sexiest video, but I want you all to understand that this quarterback battle is the least of Auburn's worries at this point of the juncture. All right, so we go to number 3. Actually, number 2, because I know that was kind of a long one right there. I'm really big on that red zone scoring, because every time a team goes into the red zone and they don't score a touchdown, I'm like, yep, that's going to be the one that's coming back. That's going to come back to bite you. You never know when it's going to come, but you better score touchdowns in the red zone. And every time, that's why I'm really big. You're going to hear me talk about that a lot on this channel. That's what I'm looking for. When I'm breaking down these games this season, just remember, Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn is looking at red zone scoring, because I know it comes back to bite you. All right. Another thing that I really look at, guys, is time of possession. Now, when I think about all of the big-time games that Auburn played last year down the stretch, Mississippi State, 18 minutes time of possession. How in the world are you going to beat a team that likes to run the football, is hot and humid in Starkville, Mississippi? You have your defense on the field all game long, basically. Same way with Tennessee was actually pretty decent with 25 minutes. That's not quite enough. But that was enough for a team like Tennessee. They should have beaten Tennessee. A couple of crazy turnovers, kind of let them keep hanging around with some big plays. But 25 minutes against Tennessee, you still could have won that game. Also, Ole Miss, 29 minutes of time of possession. Ole Miss really wasn't that great on defense, so you're going to have some, sustained drive. So 29 minutes is pretty respectable. But then when you get down to the Texas A&M and Georgia game, 21 minutes time of possession. These teams are just too good for the time of possession to not be a little bit more even. And then when you talk about the yardage gain in both of those games, it was absolutely disgusting. Less than 300 yards. How Auburn beat Texas A&M, just even with what you saw happen, is really, it defies the laws of physics. Auburn should not have beaten Texas A&M last year, and we all know it. We're glad they did, but just given all elements involved, nowhere in the world Auburn wins that game. But it salvaged the season. Auburn goes into the Georgia game ranked number 20, 25, I think. Either way, they were ranked in the 20s, top 20, giving Auburn some hope, salvage the season. You lose to Texas A&M, and you think about it statistically. Oh man, you're talking about a 7-6 season instead of a 8-5 season. Not a good look. Even though 8-5 is not much better, but 7-6, is a SEC team that wishes to compete in the SEC West every year. 7-5 is just not a good look. All right, so we keep going. You got to play better on defense. Now, a lot of us, we talk about how Auburn has the best defensive line in the country, the best linebackers, blah, blah, blah. Last season, you take away Washington, Southern Miss, even LSU, Arkansas, Alabama State. Auburn did not play well on defense down the stretch. Starting with the Mississippi State game on into Alabama, Auburn was if they would have kept those statistics up, Auburn would have been statistically among the worst defenses in the country. Auburn allowed 488 yards per game. They also allowed 28 points per game, and they also kept teams on the field 22, 21 first downs per game during this stretch. If Auburn is going to win this year, just can't do that. We believe Auburn is going to be better for a lot of reasons. Number one, you have guys in the right position. You got Noah Igbenogany at the field cornerback. He's a lot more experienced now. You have Javaris Davis, instead of him being grossly out of position at the nickelback, will be at the boundary cornerback. That way he can compartmentalize and utilize his speed to that position's advantage. My favorite part about this is the fact that Christian Tutt is going to be at that nickelback position. Okay. Then, of course, you have the options with Smoke Monday, Jamie Sherwood, Daniel Thomas, all of those, Jeremiah Denson, all of those guys solid at the safety position. I think this solidarity and also having inexperience, at least on the field inexperience, but Chandler Wooten, KJ Britt, and Zacoby McClain have been around the program for a little while, so they know how the system works. Although don't have a lot of field experience, they appear to be a lot more athletic than what we had before with Deshaun Davis, Montavious Atkinson, and Darrell Williams. Okay, so that's going to give Kevin Steele a lot more options as to what he can do athletically with this particular defense. And I think this number will improve for the Auburn Tigers. Now, another thing that we need to be worried about way more than who we know is going to be the starting quarterback has got to be either Bo Nix or Joey Gatewood. Auburn has not signed a defensive tackle. They got a defensive end. He even need another defensive end. But Auburn has not signed a defensive tackle to the 2020 class. Now, I know they will, but that's something you need to be concerned about, because you don't want situations where you're rebuilding instead of reloading, especially at that crucial defensive tackle position for the Auburn Tigers. Okay, just keep that in mind. Be on the lookout for that. The last thing, this is something that just makes my blood boil when I'm watching a football game. When a defense is played well all first half, and then they allow points right before halftime. And God forbid if that other team gets the ball back, that's just like a turnover. Like the halftime is an interception or a fumble recovery. One thing Auburn has to improve on is allowing teams to score right before halftime. We think about the Washington game. Washington scored a touchdown right before halftime. Mississippi State, touchdown right before halftime. We all remember that play where Auburn tried to make the goal line stand, and Nick Fitzgerald was very close. I think Auburn stopped him, but he was given a touchdown. That was a momentum swing. That's the thing about those touchdowns. They're momentum swings, and you got to be careful with them. I know most of us remember this vividly. Athens, Georgia. Last year, Auburn playing very, very well in that football game. But what do? Give up a almost 40-yard touchdown across the middle, untouched, right before halftime. You can't win like that, guys. Absolutely can't win like that. Tennessee gave up one right before halftime as well. So, Auburn's got a situation. Yes, the quarterback battle is very important. Who Auburn puts on the field against Oregon is very important. But those items that I mentioned are items that Auburn absolutely has to fix if they're going to be a double-digit win team this year. If not, 7-6, 8-5 is the best you can hope for. Because though actually, if you really look at how bad those things could have been, Auburn actually could have had a losing season with stats like those. All right, guys, let me know what you think about this video. Like, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. Got some more stuff coming real soon. And as always, guys, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.